It looks like we're coming up back live again. Just get my documents up, 1 sec. My name is Rich Wayne, and this is Do What Facts Works Fast webinars. And tonight I'm going to be talking about a fascinating subject, human needs psychology. It's little known, but extremely powerful. It's something you can learn about in an evening like we're going to do tonight and apply to life, for the years to come. It's really pretty amazing overall. In taking a look at human needs psychology, the basic premise is that we are driven by we're motivated by our need to meet our needs overall. And human needs psychologists have identified 6 basic human needs, kind of categories of needs that we are driven to meet overall. Now, while every human being needs to meet each one of those needs, certain needs tend to drive our behavior, tend to cause us to focus on meeting those particular needs more often than the others. And we call those 2 needs our driving force. And as we go through the 6 basic human needs, I want you to go ahead and listen for what seems to be what drives you overall. That's what you want to look for, is what drives you. This is the stuff that compels you to take action in certain ways and do the things that you do. And even the order of those human needs is very, very important for you to be aware of. And that's what we'll take a look at the end. Once you've identified your top 2 needs, which ones are most important for you to meet first overall. The second concept is the concept of what guides you in meeting your needs. What's your map of getting your needs met? Your map of feeling better, through your behavior. What do you do? And how you get your needs met, and the ways, is what compels you to take action in certain things or to do certain behaviors. If your need was, well, we'll talk about some of the needs specifically, but the idea is this is the thing that we can change. This is the thing that makes human needs psychology so powerful, is that we can change how someone gets their needs met. It's not the behaviors that they do that's important. It's the needs they're meeting and how that behavior meets their needs. And if we can show someone a way to meet their needs better, through a different type of behavior, and we can connect it to some of the higher level needs as well too, we have a shift in behavior. And that's what happens with alcoholics or addicts who successfully attend AA or some of the other anonymous groups, is they replace that old behavior with a bunch of brand new ones, and that behavior ends up meeting their needs in an even better way overall. So what guides you? What's the map? And map is we can take it quite literally. I'm out in the Inland Empire right now in Southern California, and if I want to get to Laguna Beach, I could go down the 10, to the 60 maybe, and then take the 60, to the 91 to the 133, and head down or to the 241 to the 133, and then I'd be down in Laguna Beach. And that'd probably be the fastest way, using freeways and things like that. But there's lots of other ways I could go. There's plenty of ways I could get there. Not to sound like the Californians from Saturday Night Live, but I could take the, I could take the 60, or take the 10 all the way across to the 215, down the 215 to the 91, and then follow that other course that I had before. I could take that, the 10 all the way to the 15 and take that south down to the 91 and, and make it into Laguna Beach that way. And then when you start considering side streets and other types of roads, there's thousands and thousands of ways to get there. And that's just if I'm, continue to head west. If I had infinite amounts of time and infinite amounts of money, I could start heading to the east. And I could go to the East Coast, and then I could hop on a boat, and I could travel all the way around the world, and come into Laguna Beach via Hawaii or the Pacific Rim. So there's all kinds of different ways that I can get my need to get to Laguna Beach met. And once again, if my need is to see lots of sights, I can take a slower route. If my need is to get there by the fastest way, I can take a fast route. So that's the guiding force. And the idea is, for example, someone who uses alcohol to get their needs met, it's just their map. It's the way they follow that map, and you can give them a different way to get their needs met. And that's what groups like AA do. And we'll talk about that a little bit further as well, too. But it's fascinating how you can apply this to the concept of addiction. The other thing you have to be aware of is the fuel. How do you, what's your fuel to obtain your needs? You can be powered by all sorts of things. You can be powered by excitement. You can be powered by depression, anger, frustration. And once again, anger is something that is very, very powerful, but, you could also blow up before you get there. It's unpredictable. It also, leaves, collateral damage in its wake. And so it's not a very effective way to do that. Or you could be propelled by your desire to have fun, to love, to have hope or joy. Very different results depending upon the type of emotion that fuels you overall. And so once again, we're taking a look at, how do you meet your needs, and then what devices or tools or behaviors do you use to go ahead and get your needs met overall? So once again, human needs psychologists believe that there's 6 basic human needs, and that's really at the core of human needs psychology. The premise is that human motivation is driven by a need to fulfill those 6 basic needs, and primarily your top 2 needs, your driving force overall. Those needs are constant. And in some cases, they're our closest companions. We are meeting them every day, multiple times a day. They never stop, and they never really go away. You simply can't resolve a need because it's going to be back tomorrow, or it might be back in 5 minutes or even 5 seconds overall. The needs are constant. There are primal forces that really shape all of our choices overall. And that's the interesting thing about it. Once you understand what needs are driving somebody, you really understand why they make the choices they do. And, once you understand their roadmap, you can give them a different course to meet their needs, as long as it meets some meets their needs at a higher level. There's millions and millions of ways of meeting our needs. And by understanding how that works, you can set yourself up for lasting fulfillment in life, or you can help somebody else to become even more fulfilled through a different type of behavior, through a change of behavior. So the first human need is a need for certainty and comfort. And once again, those people who are participating in Do What Works Fast in the subscription, we'll actually get handouts on this, on this and all the other topics we cover. There's handouts and checklists and things like that too, that make it much easier to go ahead and implement these things and review. For those who don't have that, you can get the live sessions, and you can go ahead and take some good notes. So I would encourage you to do that. So the first human need, once again, is for certainty and comfort. To have pleasure and at least avoid pain. For some of us, this means a secure or a more secure environment, and perhaps consistency in our relations. You can also get certainty through physical habits. Eating, for example. In fact, we talk about comfort food makes us feel safe and secure. That can make you feel comfortable and certain. You can also get certain by holding certain beliefs. For example, by having faith, in God or something like that, or in faith in that the universe will go ahead and resolve your problems, will solve things. Our need for certainty is fundamental because it's actually part of our survival instinct as well, and it's common not only to human beings but to all animals as well. If you feel that your survival is at stake, if you're living at that sort of level, you will focus on surviving. You'll do everything you can to survive. For some people, survival mode is really a rare experience. And for most of us in modern civilization, we don't live with that kind of mortal threat all the time. If you watch the news, it seems like mortal threat is constant all the time. But the reality is, a IED going off in Fallujah is not really a danger to someone who's living in Schenectady, New York. But it feels like it sometimes. So once again, just even the news can affect our need for certainty overall. Some people are in survival mode all the time. They feel like they're barely eking by. And once again, if you're living in America, that's almost not true, because we even the poorest of the poor here are much richer than many of the people, the 98% of the rest of the world. That survival, that need for certainty, for predictability, is common to all of us to one degree or another. Some of the code words for the need for certainty is comfort, which we talked about already, security, safety, stability, groundedness, predictability, protection, feeling safe and secure. When things get tough for you, what are some of the things that you do to feel certain about things? For me, sometimes I just look at all the trials of life that I've been brought through already, and how I've survived. No matter what age you are, you've survived everything you faced up until now. Absolutely everything you face. And so that can give you some degree of certainty. Some people get certain by trying to control everything in the world. Some people get certain by having a good insurance policy or some money in the bank or something like that. Once again, you can tell when someone's really driven by their need for certainty because they try and get some form of control over what's happening around them. And some people can just let go of that and feel certain. They can feel safe that God's going to take care of everything, or something along those lines. So certainty and comfort, once again, related to our survival. It's a big one for most of us. But for example, I'm not really driven by my need for certainty. I feel safe and secure 99.9% of the time. I'm not worried about the future or anything like that. If you're a big worrier, you're probably pretty focused on certainty, or actually your lack of certainty actually that's is causing that overall. So what do you do to feel certain? What do you do? And once again, I said I just kind of remind myself of everything I've been through. I'm a person of faith, so I just I focus on how big God is, and that He cares for me. He doesn't guarantee that I'm not going to have any pain or anything like that, but He does care. So that gives me a degree of certainty, overall about my life and safety. I kind of know things are going to be working out. As I said, as a person of faith too, I know that this is the time that we spend here on this planet is limited. But Christians, for example, believe they have eternity in heaven. So it's like a grain of sand on a beach. I can get across the grain of sand. I can handle the 60, 70, 80 years, whatever it is that we have here, knowing that I have, an eternity, free from pain. So that gives me certainty. So I don't need to grasp it here on this planet. But what about you? Is this something that drives you? If it is, kind of make a little check mark by your certainty and comfort, and then we'll go ahead and move on. And once again, there's the comfort side of it. Some people spend all their time trying to be more comfortable. They're very, very relaxed. They settle in. They are leaning all the time. They're conserving energy. They're doing what they can to feel comfortable all the time. And once again, that's about certainty. The second need, paradoxically, is about uncertainty or variety. And once you feel certain, you know that you're gonna survive, and if your survival is threatened, that usually becomes the number one thing that you focus on. So some people feel like their survival is threatened all the time. So once again, they're very, very geared to trying to find more certainty overall in their life. But once we feel relatively certain, our second need is kind of for uncertainty, for variety and challenges that will, kind of exercise our full emotional and our physical range overall. Our bodies, our minds, our emotional being, all require some degree of uncertainty, some degree of variety, some exercise, suspense, challenge, and even surprise is uncertainty. Even if you're the happiest person in the world, your moods will shift. Even if you have a lifetime supply of your favorite food, pizza or something like that, at some point you'll want to eat something else. You need something a little bit different. You need some variety. Your emotional and your physical states, probably change on a regular basis, and we all value some degree of uncertainty, some challenge. Even if it's like a tough Sudoku puzzle or something like that. We all need, this to certain degrees, but some people, want this in a very, very low level. They prefer not to have the big challenges and things like that. You can get, for example, you can get variety by pursuing, challenges, changes, diversions, pleasures, or undergoing, kind of risky projects or taking on challenging commitments. You can tell when someone's really driven by their need for uncertainty when they jump out of perfectly good airplanes. I have a client who does that on a regular basis, and fly motorcycles through the air. Years ago, I had an opportunity. I was still working in marketing. I had an opportunity to work the X Games, and I ride a motorcycle occasionally. And I was talking to some of the guys who ride, and I mean they're on these big ramps and they go flying through the air, and they get off and they're flipping off and doing tricks. They're flipping to the left and flipping to the right, and flipping backwards and everything. And then they settle down on the bike and then land it on this ramp and come down safely, returning to Earth, flying in a machine that's not designed for for flying. They're driven by their need for uncertainty. They keep pushing themselves, like we're coming up on the Olympics soon. People push themselves to find out what the edge of the envelope is. Those are people who are driven by their need for uncertainty and challenge and variety. Well, I talked to some of these guys who do the motorcycles, and I said, how do you do this? How do you learn to do that? And guy goes, well, we crash a lot, and and then they get tired of crashing. The novelty of that wears off, and the broken bones and things like that, and so they start to become certain about their uncertainty. They learn how to do these tricks and things. They know they become almost, sort of practical physicists to be able to have, their uncertainty with a degree of certainty. They know exactly how far the ramps are apart. They know if they wear this jacket that they can't do, it has a drag coefficient that's higher than their normal, t-shirt, so they can't do that one extra trick, or that one extra spin or flip or whatever, as they're planning to come down. They know how much gas to have, in there, and it's really amazing how they become certain about their uncertainty. Someone else does that too. Pilots. Can you imagine, being someone who's, flying through the air with, 300, souls or passengers in their charge? That's an amazing thing, a high degree of uncertainty. But those guys are very, very certain about their uncertainty. You watch pilots and them or the first officer will go walk the plane. I mean, they don't trust that it's taken care of. They go look themselves, they'll push on things. They'll take a look at the tread on the tires. They'll do all sorts of things. They'll go through an entire punch list of things before they're ready to take off. They want to be sure, they want to be certain about their uncertainty. But if they're a pilot, they gotta love the uncertainty too. I mean, it's an amazing thing to just be up in the air and, dependent upon lift and your own skills overall. So uncertainty, challenge, surprise. One of the big gauges of uncertainty is scary movies. Scary movies tend to be like #1 at the box office for like a week, because people who like scary movies tend to go fast because they don't want someone to, spoil, be a spoiler for them and tell them what happens or who gets killed and when and all that sort of thing. So they go early and they sit in a dark room with hundreds of their closest friends, eating popcorn, and it's in feeling like the slasher is after them or the monster is after them, and you jump, and if you've ever done that in a movie theater, you've been sort of hypnotized. You've joined in on the story that was taking place, and if you like scary movies, you're driven in part by your need for uncertainty. You want to get your heart racing, you want to get it beating fast, you want to get your pulse going and everything like that. And so once again, that's another way to get that sense of variety or uncertainty, some challenge. Like those guys who rode the motorcycles in a movie theater. You're not in any danger, so it's a way to be very certain. It feels like the slasher's coming after you, but they're not really. It's nice and safe overall. So tons of different ways that we can get uncertainty and variety, and a whole bunch of different degrees, and we all need it, overall. You may also get variety in sort of weird or paradoxical ways by being uncertain, anxious, depressed, fearful about things. Once again, that drives a lot of emotions that give you uncertainty. Both, the examples of straightforward ways of doing this, exercise the emotional and physical range and give you uncertainty. And don't forget, once again, that a major source of uncertainty for all of us is the problems that we have, the things that can happen. When things don't go as planned, when expectations are foiled and the wheels come off the bus and things go in a different direction, that's uncertainty, and that's variety as well. And some people love that. There's guys who make a living putting out like oil fires and stuff like that. They love the uncertainty. They love the challenge. It's an amazing, amazing thing. What do you do to meet your need for uncertainty or variety? How do you experience that on a regular basis? Let me talk about some of the code words for uncertainty, and some of these things may come up for you. Fear, instability, change. There's always people who will be moving along just fine, and then they kind of put a monkey wrench into their own stuff. We call it self-sabotage, into their own works. So they create, change, variety, and even chaos for themselves. But also refreshment is part of uncertainty, craving, and then release overall, suspense, exertion, surprise, problems, crises. All of those things are, uncertainty. Are there ways in which the feeling of uncertainty actually serves to give you variety? And sure, anybody who goes from one problem to the next is getting uncertainty and that variety at the same time. Even if peanut butter and jelly is your favorite food, and you have enough peanut butter and jelly to last a lifetime, every once in a while you're going to need some variety. You're going to change it up, maybe some jam instead, or maybe a sugar-free peanut butter or something, or maybe put some bananas on the sandwich like Elvis did. I love peanut butter and banana sandwiches, man. Once again, which ways do you go ahead and get unright? And of the two, certainty and uncertainty, which one tends to drive you more? Which one? My pastor said to me once that you can tell what a person's into, what's really important to them by their checkbook and their calendar. Where do they spend their time, and where do they spend their money? Do you spend your money becoming more certain? Blue chip investments, feeling safe, lots of savings, things like that. Or is it variety? Do you spend money on exotic trips, or, going to, wingsuits or something along those lines? Once again, uncertainty, we need them both. Certainty and comfort, and uncertainty and variety. And, which one is a higher level need for you? Go ahead and, mark that down. The third human need is, unrelated to that, and it's for significance. Everybody needs to feel important. Everybody needs to feel needed and wanted. And when we were babies, we all really needed to feel like we were number one overall and important. And if you had siblings, the odds are you probably competed with them, for the love and attention of your parents. And, at some point in time, you found your niche. You were the achiever, or you were the funny one, or something like that. You could have been the smart one, or the scrappy one, kind of a tough one, or something like that, or the loving one, or the really good, obedient child, who pays, great attention to parents and what they're talking about. Whatever that is you found a way to significance. And it's really interesting. This sort of thing starts with us when we're very young. When you're first born, you're likely the most significant thing in your parents' or caregivers' lives. Even someone who was given up for adoption or something like that, you were very significant. You were carried for a period of time and things like that, very significant in their lives. And I'm someone who has two children. So I know with your first child, you're very, very careful. You wrap them in bubble wrap, you're just trying to be, wildly safe with them. And then you find out stuff kind of happens anyway. Things happen, they're going to put their finger in a light socket at some point in time or something like that, no matter how good you are about putting those little covers on there. Second, third, fourth child, you kind of let them juggle chainsaws and stuff like that. You know that they're pretty resilient, that babies, come back. They heal very quickly when they get hurt or whatever. And, you get a little more relaxed about it. But as a child is where we first learn about significance. Someone is taking care of all of our needs. And some adults believe, and see if this is you. If you really loved me, you'd know what I need. And we get that impression. We get, kind of fooled into that to a great degree by our parents taking care of us when we're young. Because we can't talk, we can't express what we need, but they met our needs for years and years and years until we could finally ask for water or milk or something like that. They took care of our needs before we could even communicate. Well, they didn't do it because they loved us so much, they just knew inherently what we needed. No, as a parent, I know what you do. You check their diaper, you burp them, you pick them up, you walk them around a little bit, you see if they're interested in food, or you find their pacifier and get it back into their mouth again. You try a bunch of stuff. You put them in a swing and let them swing a little bit. Sometimes, in order to help put our kids to sleep, we'd go out in the car and put them in the car seat and go for a drive. And a lot of times the motion and the sound and, kind of the thrumming of the tires on the road was sufficient to go ahead and put our kids to sleep, make them comfortable enough and relaxed enough. So significance, we first learn about that as babies. And about the age of 1, little Johnny, or maybe he's 11 months or even a little, 10 and a half months or something like that. I just heard of a baby that's at 10 months that's starting to walk. And little Johnny, crawls over to the table and puts his hands on there and kind of, is all wobbly and everything. And he kind of powers himself up into a standing position. He's standing at the table and he's all wobbly, but holding himself up there and everything. And mom comes into the room and she goes, "Oh my God, you're standing, you're walking. Oh, honey, come quick, get the camera. Our baby's a genius. They're walking long before anything." And they pick up little Johnny and they hug him and they hold him and they kiss him and fawn over him. And in that minute, a little superstar is born. A person who's learned that they can get their significance met by just achieving something, by being special. In some way, and a little superstar is born. And I know 70-year-old people who are still trying to achieve, still trying to be good enough. I mean, one of our big fears is that we're not enough somehow. I'm hearing that time and time and time again. So it's something that's important to pay attention to, is that becomes a fear of ours, that we're not enough somehow. And the reality is, of course, we're enough. But in that moment, significance is about, being good enough. It's about being the focus of attention sometimes. And there's all kinds of ways to get your need, for significance met. Another little baby comes along, little brother or sister, and about 11 months or so, they're crawling along. They go over to the same table and, put their little hands up there on the table, and they're kind of, all wobbly and start to get up in place and everything like that. And then boom, they fall down, hit their head, start to cry real hard. Parents know the cry of their child, and especially the hurt cry of their child. That's amazing. Go to a park sometime if you're not a sex offender and you can get near a park like that. Go to a park sometime and watch the kids playing on the jungle gym. Gaggle of moms is kind of sitting over to the side, or dads, parents a lot of times today. A kid will fall, they'll cry out. A couple of them will pop up and look. Most of them will go down, and one parent will take off. They kind of know the cry of their hurt child. That's significance. Well, little brother or sister, we'll call her Annie. Annie goes ahead and falls and hits her head, and she starts crying. And mommy comes and takes care of her and picks her up and soothes her and holds her. Oh, sweetie, I'll kiss the boo-boo and make it better. Everything's going to be okay. I love you so much. And in that moment, little Annie learns that in order to get the significance she needs, all she has to do is get hurt. And we all know people who are going through life, getting hurt all the time, getting in trouble all the time and things like that. And often that sort of thing gives them significance. When I talk to parents, I talk about, don't give attention to any behavior you don't like. Because when, attention is attention. And if you give its significance and you're making your child significant for that behavior, they'll continue to do it. We are reinforcing it and they'll continue to do it. John Connolly, who's a mentor of mine who created rapid resolution therapy. John talks about, he wanted to know how do they, he was studying motivation kind of, and he went to SeaWorld and got, he had somebody on his board who knew somebody who got him actually behind the scenes talking to the head trainer. And he said, how do you get these, these whales and dolphins and these animals that we really can't communicate with that well? How do you get them to do these amazing tricks? And the head trainer goes, well, we reinforce every behavior we like. Every time they do something good, they get a treat or they get interaction of some kind. That's a reinforcement. And John goes, okay. And then when they do something bad, and it's like crickets. And he goes, when they do something bad, he said, exactly. We give them nothing. We give them no reinforcement at all when they do something bad. And wonderful way to deal with the people who are pushing the buttons in your life sometimes is they might be feeling significant, even if they, bring down great trauma on themselves or consequences like being grounded and things like that. If they can make steam come out of your ears or get your attention, they're certainly pretty significant. And once again, you may be feeding one of the needs that drive them. So significance can also be about being the center of attention, being needed, being wanted, that need that we had as a child is still with us to a very great degree. And, you can get significant in a lot of different ways. You can get significant by building, great buildings or achieving something or creating beautiful artwork, or you can get significant by tagging buildings, creating artwork that some people think is beautiful, but many people think is an eyesore kind of, so destroying, the look of something by putting your own sort of brand on it. You can get significance, can come from comparing yourself to others. Feeling better than others can make somebody feel significant overall. You can get significant by pushing someone down. It's getting significant in a negative way. You can also get significant by reaching down and reaching out your hand to someone and helping them back up again. All kinds of ways to get significant. People who are driven by achievement and things like that might collect a whole variety of different degrees to be significant. Oh yes, I'm a doctor and I'm also master's in this and I've learned all these things. There might be all kinds of different ways that they get significance. In the hood, you get significance at the end of a gun. If you point a gun at someone, you're instantly the most significant person in their life for a while. You have their full 100% attention. And once again, it is a way to be, significant to others. how do you get significance? How do you get your need? Once again, we all have this need. And for some of us, it drives our behavior. If you seek to be the center of attention or something like that, you're driven by your need for significance. And it's at its core, significance is about being good enough to be loved. It's about separating yourself out from the pack, separating yourself out from others, and being good enough to be loved. And to a degree, I mean, on the plus side, significance, the need for that often leads you to raise your standards. But if you over focus on significance, it kind of causes you to disconnect from people because you're also moving apart from them, setting yourself apart from the pack in order to be special, in order to be significant, despite the fact that significance is about, at its core, being good enough to be loved. Remember our little super achiever and our little one that gets hurt, in order to be significant, being good enough to be loved. How do you, people with self-esteem have issues, have a significance problem. They're always waiting to see the reaction of someone, waiting to see if they're good enough somehow. Are perhaps expecting or anticipating eagerly someone, demonstrating love to them or something like that. Some of the code words for significance might be pride, importance, standards, achievement, performance, perfection. Perfectionism is a big deal about both certainty and the idea of significance. Many people who need to be certain, who need to do it the best, who have very high standards and ideals, also like the idea of being significant for that, for being known kind of for that overall. Evaluation is a part of significance, discipline, competition. Any talk of being rejected or of being good enough is all about need for significance. And so how do you get your need for significance met? Do you reach out and help people? Do you, provide for them? Do you take care of their needs somehow? Do you do for them? Do you get things for them? Are you, people pleasers are really about, pleasing people and hoping that leads to significance and caring on the part of the people that they're pleasing overall. So how do you get your need for significance met? Do you need to be, part of the, one of the great things about this, and this was actually significance was one of my, part of my driving force when I was young. It was absolutely, I was in a rock and roll band. I loved that. I was in plays in school, and did a lot of theater and things like that. I loved the applause. I loved the significance. And today I'm kind of significant one-on-one or with a couple or a family or a small group of people. But lately I've been going out and doing karaoke and everything like that. And I'm a pretty good singer. I sang in a band when I was in college, and I get tremendous sense of significance, but I'm not as driven for it. I don't need to do it all the time. I'm really not driven by it anymore. So your driving force over time can actually shift a little bit, and it does as you mature and move on. So we'll keep talking, and you can do that. So think about it. Are you driven by your need for certainty and comfort? Are you driven more by your need for uncertainty and variety? Are you driven by your need for significance? By the way, as a young person, teenager, and into my 20s, I was pretty much driven by my need for uncertainty and excitement. I rode motorcycles, I was a little bit of a bad boy, that type of thing. And but I also was in a rock and roll band, and I did the theater and stuff like that. So I really, was getting my needs for excitement, attention, significance met in a big way. So those were my top two, my driving force when I was younger. Let's talk about the fourth human need. While significance is about being good enough to being loved, the fourth human need is, of course, love and connection. It's kind of the softer form of that that we have today. Everybody needs connection with other human beings. When someone doesn't, it's a bit of an aberration, like the Unabomber or someone like that. They pull away from society. And some of the people pull away from society because they love nature. That was not the Unabomber. He pulled away from society because, he didn't, desire connection with other human beings. And in fact, ultimately desired to hurt them. And everyone really strives for and hopes for love today. And once again, it's if you're watching this or listening to this, you're alive today, you were loved. When your parents made you their number one focus for a period of time. Probably wasn't long enough for any of us, but for a period of time, you were number one. They took care of you. Parents, are sleep deprived and everything like that. They, often food deprived. I know that's particularly true of moms. They'll go ahead and let everyone eat first and then have that last crust of bread or something like that. Overall, but that is a loving gesture. When we're little, we needed to feel loved and touched, really, in order for us to survive. They talk about failure to thrive or reactive attachment disorder in kids who weren't touched or cuddled or held enough. And those needs are still there. They're sort of at your core, but you might not like touching, at this particular point in time. In a sense, love is the ultimate survival instinct. It comes before a baby can take care of their own bodily needs. So love is a big part of who you already are, no matter who you are. The obstacles lie only in your belief system, in how to get the feeling of love, your rules about how to recognize and appreciate love, and your ability to learn to give love as well as receive it. Some people rarely experience love, and some people move away from it because they're afraid of losing it. They're focused on the uncertainty of it overall. But some people have many ways of feeling some sort of connection with each other. And today, we're probably the most connected and least connected society ever. You can have 500 million friends on Facebook and not really know anybody in real life. You can, be amazingly connected all the time and in communication, and really be disconnected. That's a lot of psychologists' fears now, that the whole family sits at a table, but everyone's at their screen. You might be at your screen watching this webinar right now, but the whole family is, no one's interacting. Sometimes we think it's funny when, kids in a family will be texting each other while they're at the family table with the parents or something like that. And that's often very funny too, but that's how they're choosing to communicate. And they're being connected, but they're also being disconnected as well. Some people live in a virtual world and live with their virtual success and their virtual relationships and their virtual achievements, and feel much better in that world, feel like they are good enough in that particular world. So how do you know if you're driven by love, since we all need it and everything? Well, if you're driven by love, you have lots of people you love. You are a love bug. You are all about the love. You are all about the caring. If this is where the order of things is kind of interesting. If you're driven by love in uncertainty, or your need for certainty, if it's that order, love first and then certainty, you probably have large groups of friends and people you hang out with and everything like that, and you get your certainty by having some money in the bank and having a good insurance policy or a job with a great future or something along those lines. If you're driven the other way around, you have to be certain about those that you love first, and it's kind of like the circle of trust, that they talk about. I can't remember the movie right now. Meet the Fockers. The circle of trust that's in that movie, and others that are like that, where it's just a very small group of people who you love very, very deeply, and they're very much a part of you and your life. So that's our fourth human need is love. And once again, if this is the one that drives you, you spend all your time about other people and things like that, and loving other people. Some of the code words for this are feeling together, soulmate, unified, passionate, on the same page. I'm hearing stuff about twin flames lately, so intertwined, close together. And certainly, our media has caused us to all of our, of course, this is one of our human needs because all of our songs, all of our movies, all of our books, contain love interest of some kind or a failure for love to be there. And that's why a person might be on the outskirts of society somehow or something like that. So love is absolutely critical to us. But once again, if you don't have large groups of people and things like that who are, you just love everybody, then you may not be driven by your need for love. It's still important to you, but it may not be your driving force. So, of these four, and these four are what they call the needs of the personality. It's kind of a subset of the human needs. Certainty and uncertainty, significance and love are needs of the personality. And these are the needs that are met pretty well by addictions. I'll give you my own example of this. I was a smoker for 20 years, started when I was about 15 or something like that, quit when I was 35. And it was very difficult to quit. I was like up to 2-pack-a-day smoker at some point in time. But as I think about that, once I had started smoking, I really needed that cigarette, that nicotine, to feel certain. I started to feel uncomfortable and everything. I was kind of jonesing for the nicotine. And so I needed that. So it met my certainty. I know that if once I got out to have that cigarette at a break or something like that, I would feel much better. There was also uncertainty about it because cigarettes can kill you. They cause cancer. And when I was a kid, and the generation before mine called them coffin nails. So everyone that we've known for a long time, even before the warnings went on packages, that was dangerous. But they definitely met our need for uncertainty too. In fact, when I first started smoking, it kind of made me feel high or queasy, and that was uncertainty. It was it was a change in state that I was achieving with that too. Significance. We even make smokers significant today. We put them in a little corral somewhere if we let them smoke at all. But back in the day, smoking at 15 or something like that, it made me look older. It made me very significant. And a lot of the ads about smoking, because I'm doing them, get my cigarette, I haven't smoked in like 35 years, and I still have that capability. I have those fingers together to hold that cigarette. It was sophisticated. Movie stars and doctors endorsed cigarettes, in the 40s and 50s and things like that. So once again, it was something that, made you feel significant at a 7 or 8 out of 10 or something like that. And to a degree, there was a certain amount of love and connection. Even today, since smokers are a very small group, there is this connection that takes place when they all get together in their little corral or place where they're allowed to smoke, to go ahead and smoke. So once again, the addiction met each of those needs. And you can take anything, alcohol, drugs, or whatever, and they have that thing. Certain drugs lead to certainty. They calm you down, they relax you, they maybe make you sleepy, give you a sense of euphoria and peace. Other drugs give you uncertainty. They hype you up, they get you, psychedelics can make you even see things that aren't there, to believe things that aren't true. Fox News can make you do that too. I'm sorry, for those of you who are Fox News watchers, I apologize about that, but it's true. It's not fair and balanced, but once again, that you can, certain drugs used to do that. At one point in time, they used LSD, a powerful psychedelic, for couples therapy. It was used for a while, once again, to break down the barriers between people and help them have a different sort of consciousness overall. So those are needs of the personality. They're very easily hijacked by addictions. But the somewhat higher needs, the fifth and sixth needs that we're going to talk about right now, are what they call needs of the spirit. And it's not a religious thing, but it's we all have a spiritual side, even if it's not believing. If it's just believing that you live and then you die, and there's no one kind of overseeing this whole thing. Even if you believe that way, you have probably a spiritual side, and many people who are like that, are spiritual about nature and things like that. I love being by the water. I love being at the beach or in Yosemite and having the waterfalls and stuff like that. It's incredible. It's just amazing and very soothing and fulfilling, for me too. So I kind of get that, excitement about the wonders of nature and things like that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our fifth need, our fifth human need. So before we do, once again, are you more driven by your need for certainty, to know for sure that something's going to have predictability, uncertainty, excitement, variety, change, surprise, significance, importance, being needed, being center of attention at times, or significant at least for the people that you care about, or love and connection with others? Do you spend a lot of your time, connecting up with people? I have friends and coworkers and things like that who are still connected to people we worked with, 20 or 30 years ago. And to me, that's really sort of amazing. Overall, that they have stayed connected with everybody. And there are some people who are just like that. And once again, they're kind of driven by their need for love and connection. They recognize the importance of that. And in fact, when you do, if you're feeling depressed or something, connecting up to others can be very, very helpful in terms of helping you to lift you out of the depression and move you towards happiness again. Social connection is really good for us in that regard. So anyway, so fifth need is for growth. And we know that that's kind of true. Whatever isn't growing is dying. Whatever isn't producing and contributing, is eliminated often. We need to, constantly develop emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, and for some people even physically. Continuing to do that. There's a universal law about it. As I said, everything is even growing or dying. There's no middle ground. Anything you want to remain in your life, your money, your body, your relationships, your happiness, your love, must be cultivated, developed, expanded on. Otherwise, it will degenerate. And what does that mean for us? I mean, there really is, people who, successfully retire have other interests. They just go on to do other things, and they're often as busy as they once were, but they're just doing something that they really like. There's no real retirement, this terminal point where we simply get to, keep and enjoy what have made or have at that particular point. If your body or your finances or your relationship are in a good state, be prepared to continue to have to kind of care for them and expand it. If they flatline, they'll degenerate. If you take a body of water and you close off influx and egress kind of to it, like the beavers sometimes do when they dam up a pond or a stream or something like that becomes a pond. Without that movement, without that growth, without that exchange, without that new material and oxygen coming through and everything, that body of water will stagnate and die. If you eliminate the obstructions and you get flow again, it will rejuvenate. As long as it continues to grow, it continues to do. So, how do you grow? If you're, people who are driven by their need for growth, lifelong learners are driven by their need for growth. Travelers, people who love traveling, they love experiencing new cultures and lands and things like that, very much driven by their need for growth. This is having new experiences. It's kind of like uncertainty. It's variety and things like that, but it's at a lower level, and it's about having the experience, having it contribute to who you are. That's growth. One of the things I love about the profession that I'm in is we're required to continue to grow. We have to do continuing education every year in order to keep our license. And I think it's a great thing. And I do much more than what I'm required to do, because it's so wonderful to be in this place where I can learn something new and apply it the next day. And I love doing that. That's why I will always continue to update these particular webinars and things like that, and books that I write. I continue to update and add the latest and the greatest to us, because there's always development. There's always growth overall. So once again, if you, when someone is really depressed, they're really not growing too much. They're avoiding things, they've pulled in right now. The world is not working for them too much, so they're isolating and pulling away and withdrawing from it, and maybe not even feeling it anymore. But that's not a state of growth, and it can't last. The way you break free of that is you grow. You have experiences that felt good. You get together with people. You connect. You do all sorts of things. And once again, as you start to do that, it can accelerate, ascent out of depression, out of the pit of despair, so to speak. So growth is one of the needs of the spirit, and it's the fifth human need. So coming back one more time, what are you driven by? Needs for certainty, your needs for uncertainty, your needs for significance, your need for love, your need for growth, or number six, your need for contribution. And this is about going beyond your own needs and wants and giving to others. And once again, everything in the universe contributes beyond itself or it's eliminated. This is true of all sorts of things. It's true of the animal kingdom. It's true of, work situations and things like that. Most emotional problems and even sources of pain tend to disappear when you focus on serving beyond yourself. We always talk about that. Get involved in something where you feel like you're making a contribution, where you're contributing somehow. Maslow's hierarchy of needs talked about, the idea of becoming self-actualized and getting to that place where you are, becoming the best you can be. That's very much about growth, but often at that stage, you're also contributing to, you're giving back. It's a part of almost all human development models that there's a point in time where there's this give back, to society or to your culture or even, to your family sometimes. And that's about contribution. Contribution, is the human need that actually sort of effectively regulates the other five needs. If you're focused on contribution, you have the certainty of being able to contribute. There's always a way to do that. You have variety in the number of things that can go right and wrong. Contribution is highly interactive. Stuff is happening. Think about serving at a kitchen, or a homeless shelter or something like that. Soup kitchen, homeless shelter, and once again, certainty in that you're going to feel good for having done what you've done, for helping your fellow human beings. Uncertainty, you don't know what's going to happen. Someone can come in and be drunk or hallucinating, not connected to a shared reality. There's always some sort of variety in that. Once again, significance, it's reaching out a hand to somebody else. You become very significant by helping others, because that kind of commitment is somewhat rare, and it's a sign of an extraordinary person. You have connection too, and sometimes often love gets expressed. There's a wonderful spiritual connection in helping others. The idea of two souls kind of touching or helping each other overall. And you often have the necessity to grow. You have to learn something. You have to learn something, even if it's just serving stew or something like that in a line in a homeless shelter. You have to learn how to do that. You have to learn how much to ladle out and how to do those things, or even how to operate the dishwasher at the end of things. There's always some form of growth that often needs to take place. And once again, it requires growth because contribution requires going beyond your own needs, which we're usually pretty good at. And from this perspective, human needs psychology is really not only about taking care of your own needs, but also to expand to serve others, in an attitude of leadership and contribution. And AA, organization we talked about earlier, does that exactly. People make commitments. The 12th step is going back and helping others through that same minefield that you went through, and continuing to, take moral inventory of yourself and things like that. But once again, continuing to grow and continuing to contribute, giving back. A big part of people's programs are often to make commitments and, contribute back to the organization. When you're focused on growth and contribution, it's kind of difficult to get bored. You can certainly get depressed if, depression is something that affects you on a regular basis, but it's less likely when you're in that mode. That's one of the things that kind of brings us out of that is a sense of purpose and meaning, which often comes from our contribution. So there you have it. Certainty or uncertainty. Certainty and comfort, uncertainty and variety, significance, love, growth, and contribution. What two drive most of your behavior? Look at what you really do. You might say you love everybody, but or you love your family, you're driven by providing for your family, but if you work 80 hours a week, I don't think that's true. It's probably something else. It's probably significance or, something along those lines that is really driving your behavior. So what drives your behavior? And once you actually discover that, once you figure that out about yourself or even someone else, you can now help them to meet the need in a different way. They're getting them to change their guiding force. And often when you can add growth and contribution to that, it works. We were talking about AA earlier, and once again, you feel certain. You go to an AA meeting, you feel like, hey, well, I'm going to meet some people who understand me and everything like that. That's going to feel good. There's uncertainty. You never know what's going to happen. Once again, people can come in loaded or something like that. It doesn't happen very often, but it can happen. You don't know who's going to speak up, who's going to do what. There's significance. There's opportunities to speak. There's opportunities to go ahead and to take commitments and things like that. There is certainly tons of connection and love. In fact, it's probably one of the best things of the Anonymous, the 12-step programs and the Anonymous programs is that connection that they provide almost from day one, from moment one. People will offer you phone numbers and things like that. And, it's give me a call if you're thinking about picking up or using again. And they want to be there for you. They're contributing already at this particular place. So there's that sort of connection, but also growth. You learn things. You read the big book. You learn from the people who are talking. They kind of take you through what they went through, so you don't have to go through it, as well. There's a way to avoid some of that pain and strife and things like that. And but there's also the opportunity to contribute and to give back, to be a part of someone else's recovery. And when you do that, you feel terrific. A lot of people think that Mother Teresa was very unselfish, and I would definitely agree with that. She worked with the poorest of the poor. Their people's own country decided that they didn't exist. They were the untouchables. They didn't exist. But she loved them and cared for them and nursed them back to health and lived among them and everything like that. And once again, while she didn't have a great deal of certainty and comfort part of that in particular, I bet she felt terrific. I bet she felt great. She was contributing so much to this lost group of people. I bet she felt wonderful and amazing to go ahead and do that. So once again, there's lots of different ways. She was someone who was definitely driven by her need for contribution, and she kind of shunned the spotlight. So I don't think significance was her thing. By the way, that's where my stuff is coming. Is as I got out of marketing, became a therapist. I became much more driven by growth. I was constantly learning things to be a better therapist, to have tools to give to folks like yourselves, and contribution. It's so meaningful to me. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to be in front of 500 people anymore, screaming. Being with somebody and, having the privilege of being a part of their life is an amazing thing. So when you figure out what, needs drive someone, you begin to look at their problem in solvable terms. Then you connect with them, you understand their situation, you understand their guiding force, you understand what drives their behavior. You understand where they live emotionally. Are they sort of a negative person? Great exercise for emotional. Where you live emotionally, take a sheet of paper, draw a line down the center of it. We'll make the left side negative emotions, we'll make the right side positive emotions. Write down the emotions that you experience over the course of a week. Not something that you've had, a couple of years ago when someone passed away or something like that, but over the course of the week, where do you live emotionally? Important to kind of know that. That's your fuel. That drives you towards, going ahead and meeting your needs overall. And once you understand those things, you can provide someone with a new and empowering alternative, a different way to get their need for significance met or certainty met. That's also tried to growth and contribution. And once you tie it effectively to growth and contribution, it ends up making it better than it was before. And that's how you begin to move people. And then you condition them into that. You reinforce when they do those things, this new behavior that still meets their needs, but is also tied to perhaps to growth and contribution. And then, once again, relate that to kind of a higher purpose. And the 12-step programs do a fabulous job about that, of bringing it back around again and helping others who are suffering from the same things. It's a way to take, horrible experiences in life and use that pain that you had to help someone else to avoid that pain. So that's human needs psychology. Fascinating area. I use it all the time. When I'm sitting there across from somebody, I ask myself, what drives them? And often by what they talk about and how they act and what they do, what drives them. So you give them a different way, a better way to be certain that's more in line with what you need, for example, in your life. And as a therapist, is not what I need, but something that might be better for them than the way that they're becoming certain now or uncertain now, finding a different way to do that. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you'll join me again for Do What Works Fast. What I'm trying to do is bring the best possible tools, the cutting edge stuff, the stuff, but also the stuff that's proven to work. And I think this model really can help you to understand yourself and understand other people, and therefore, live better. And kind of more passionately overall. Thanks very much for joining me. My name is Rich Wayne, and I look forward to seeing you again. Next week will be office hours. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and get on. It'll be probably a conference call. I'll send out a conference call number to everybody who I sent this out to. And if you want to participate, those that are members of Do What Works Fast, get to have their questions answered first. But we'll have other questions in there too, because they're certainly will be beneficial to everybody who participates. So for an hour, next Thursday evening at 7, I'll be on the phones and trying to answer whatever questions you have about emotional situations, relationships, anything along those lines, life in general. And then the week following, I'll be back again. And this time, I think I want to actually focus on addiction and different ways to look at it and different ways to address it. I think that'll be fascinating for you. I got some stuff that is not really well known, but really very effective. And so I'm looking forward to presenting that and sharing that with you. Take care. Do What Works Fast. You can get it at richwayne.com. And then just click on the Do What Works Fast icon and learn more about participating in this and having these videos and audios available to you and your family members if you want to use a license is for your immediate family members if you want to have them learn about some of this. If you have someone who's suffering from depression or anxiety, I did great seminars on that. And all these things can be very helpful. Human needs psychology is very much about that sort of thing too, and can be used to help someone who's suffering from those types of things. Anyway, take care. Thanks so much for joining me.